Hey, everybody, it's Mark Lavelle, and I'm going to be breaking down for you today the U.S. debt ceiling, why they keep raising it, why it's not a good idea, and how the United States actually pays off debt. This is in reference to an article by Amar Shah that he just recently wrote. I'll include a link to it in the description if you would like to read it. It's worth the reading. But remember, the United States government, when it look at it, it has bills to pay, right? So it has workers it has to pay. It pays Social Security. It pays Medicare. It pays debts, defense spending, and all this kind of things, civil projects, right? So where does the United States actually get that money from? So a lot of people think it's just because the United States government raises taxes or collects taxes, but that's not exactly the whole picture. Okay, so what the United States does is it issues something called treasury bonds, treasury bills, or treasury notes. People or other countries can actually buy these. Now, because the United States has been a good credit risk, right? And because these bonds are really liquid, other people and other countries actually use these as a form of currency. So, what does it mean, right? So, the United States issues a bond, somebody pays them for this bond, knowing that when that bond matures, the United States is going to give them their money back. But in the meantime, the United States government is also going to be paying them interest on that bond, right? It's kind of like paying a credit card bill. So that's a good thing, right? But the problem is the United States is now running into an issue where it cannot afford to pay the interest that it owes these people or owes these countries. That puts us in default risk, okay? And when that happens, countries are going to stop buying the American bonds or the US government bonds the way they have. And also, people are not going to trust them as much. So that puts the government in a really bad position because how is it going to have the money to function, right? So, taking a look at the overall picture of what actually is going on, right? The U.S. government basically spends more money than it can than it can make, right? Like a regular family, like if I made $4,000 a month, but my bills were $5,000 a month, I'd have a hard time paying my bills. Okay, that's basically what's happening with the United States. When we look at, everything that this country pays, all the money it gives to other countries, all the money it puts into civil programs, all the money it pays for all these crazy things, right? It is spending more money than it can make. So, how does the United States actually make this money? Well, okay, the ability to tax its citizens. Okay, that's a big part. The ability to tax businesses. But today, in today's day and age, uh, it's been a bad year. The United States has not raised that much tax money. Now we're in a position where we can't pay our interest that we owe, let alone pay the money back when it matures. Uh, bad situation to be in. So, what does the United States government do when it actually gets into this situation? Well, that's when you see it goes to Congress, and Congress is going to pass a resolution or pass a motion to actually raise the debt limit, allowing us to borrow more money, putting ourselves further into debt. Right now, we're at $31.4 trillion. And what that does is they say that allows the country to go on to pay its bills and all this kind of stuff. But just like a regular family, right? You cannot keep paying your bills by paying it with a credit card and not being able to pay the credit card. And that's just what's basically happening here. And then in the situation that we have politicians who their whole ability to stay in office is their ability to give away free stuff, right? Nobody wants to be the politician that cuts benefits because they're not going to get reelected. So we give these people the ability to raise the debt limit and expect them to make really good fiscal decisions instead of really hard fiscal decisions, which is we have got to cut spending. What has put us in this situation? Why it's such a bad tax year, and why we're kind of facing the default risk that we faced in 2011? Well, several reasons, right? We're not raising as much taxes as we did in the past. Remember, taxes are due April 15th, right? But California actually passed a resolution that this year people do not have to pay their taxes until October. Well, California is an extremely big state with a lot of people paying a lot of tax money, right, that goes to California and also to the rest of the United States. But that check was supposed to come in for the United States government to spend in April. But now, oh, that money's not coming in till October and November. What do we do in the meantime? How do we pay the bills that we had that scheduled, right? I got to pay Fred tomorrow, but I don't have the money because Mike is paying me Friday, right? So bad situation to be in. Also, when we lose businesses, guys, when businesses close down, businesses pay a lot of money in taxes. You have businesses now closing down because of theft, uncontrolled theft. You have businesses closing down because we're in a really bad economy. And that kind of affects the whole picture of not only is the economy bad, but the US dollar is not going to be as good, right? And the credit rating of the United States is not going to be as good. So when it comes to this situation, we have two choices. We can risk default or we can raise the limit. Congress usually just decides to raise the debt ceiling, putting us further in the road. So basically, all we're doing is we're kicking this problem further and further and further down the road. We're going to have to make some more decisions because sooner or later, the road is going to come to a dead end. It's just not going to go on forever. So I think being responsible and actually understanding how the US government works, which they really don't teach anymore, understanding how the US government pays stuff, and then understanding that as a people, as an American citizen, we actually have to stand up and be willing to take the bullet and say, hey, you guys have got to control spending. I understand. I like free stuff, right? Everybody likes free stuff, but you just can't keep raising the debt limit and not think we're going to get ourselves into a really bad situation. You have got to get control of spending. You have got to cut certain things out. You have got to, at least, not if you're cutting it out, but just kind of lowering how much money you're spending on that. So right now, the United States government is saying, well, we have enough money to pay Medicare, which is incredibly important for our older citizens, right? But we're not going to have the money to pay everything else we have to pay. So we run the risk of defaulting on that, right? It's kind of like I have the money to pay my mortgage, but I don't have the money to pay water, electricity, or gas, or let alone, let's not even think about cable or TV or Wi-Fi. All these things are cell phones, right? All these things that we have to pay. The United States government is the same exact way. So, hey, tell me what you think about this video. I hope this kind of gave you a better picture and a better understanding that really we need to kind of start talking about some hard issues and kind of holding our paid representatives and our elected officials accountable for these things so that we can get a better grasp and have a more prosperous future. Uh, Comment in the video below. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.